This week I'm making Ruby Tandoh's sweet dough buns. You can do all different combinations. I'm going to add some sultanas to mine. So first up I'm adding in bread flour, and I ran out of that, as I always seem to, and so I'm just topping up with some plain flour. This recipe is from her book Crumb, but it's also on the Guardian website, so I'll link it down below. And then I'm adding in some unsalted butter, which is at room temperature, and they go into the mixer. And then next up, I'm taking some milk, which has been kind of warmed up to just kind of blood temperature. Such a scary kind of measurement, isn't it, to say, oh, it's blood temperature. But anyway, lukewarm, and then adding in the eggs and giving that a good old whisk till it's nice and kind of golden, creamy yellow. And so this is the flour and butter mixture. So that went into the stand mixer, and I just mixed that together until it was basically like breadcrumbs. Now I'm adding in some instant yeast, giving that a mix together. And then some sugar, just normal caster sugar, not too much. Even though it says a sweet dough, she doesn't really add too much sugar. And then the final ingredient is some sea salt. So now we're going to add the milk and the egg mixture, pouring that straight in, some vigorous whisk action there. And then that's going to go into the mixer. That was the dough hook. And I think I just threw the raisins or sultanas straight in. So there's no footage of that. It's not in the recipe. It's at that point you can add whatever you want, whether that's spices or fruit peel or fruit or chocolate chips. And you can make buns or plats. It's a really, really versatile recipe, and I really enjoy it. So like I said, I decided to go for kind of fruity iced bun. I don't think I added any spices this time, but I have in the past added things like cinnamon and cardamom. So this recipe makes 12 buns, and so I'm just dividing up here. I've got it on the scales so I can measure them out fairly accurately, and then shaping them into rounds and directly onto the baking tray. I should say that obviously this dough did rise. So this is when it's had about an hour, up to 2. I think I tend to leave it to the longer side, just so it has a nice, really nice rise, and makes it even lighter and kind of chewier in a good way. So they don't go very dense. And then it rises again. This was maybe 45 minutes or so, so you can see they've nicely puffed up, and then they'll go into the oven for I think maybe half an hour. I think it was half an hour, and the last step is making up some simple icing. So just adding icing sugar to a bowl, and adding a bit of water, and rinse and repeat, basically. Just keep going until the icing is at a level that you feel is a nice consistency. You can spread it. It's not going to run off the sides of the buns, but it's also not going to be too thick. And I'm only going to ice some of them because my partner is a complete weirdo and doesn't like icing. So I only made enough for half. So 6 buns for me, 6 buns for him. I mean, that's fair, isn't it? So here I am, just literally splodging on the icing. Nothing pretty, nothing fancy here. You want a kind of very homemade, comforting tea and a bun aesthetic with this. At least I do. I want it to feel very much like you pick up with your hands and you tuck in. Nothing fancy. In fairness, none of my baking is particularly fancy. I think, at this point I'm just dolloping up the icing to make sure it stretches, and then taking a bite because I couldn't resist. As you can see, they're really light and fluffy. They've got nice little air pockets. The fruit is distributed throughout. Amazing, lovely, and it's a very, very large bite there, but baker's perks, as always. I hope you enjoyed watching this week, and if you did, please like and subscribe, and I will see you next week.